Well, home ownership, it's a very emotional transaction. It's fun to look at houses. It's exciting to even put in an offer. But once the offer is accepted, it's a very nerve wracking, entangled process. Buying a house is just about the biggest financial decision for most people. And there is that question, is a house an asset or a liability? An asset being defined as something that either directly pays you every month or something that increases in value that you can cash in for a profit. A liability is something that drains your resources and leaves you vulnerable to be hurt. Good to see you, Adam. Love to you, brother. Good to see you, Christina. Great to see you. And me, as a property owner at one time in my life, I could say that it's a mixed bag. I will say that it is a heavy commitment. It's tough in the beginning until you get through closing and you get settled in. When you buy a property and after you get settled in, it could be a blessing. But once in a while, things come up with the house that the blessing turns into a burden. And over time, as your desires and your dreams change, this house becomes more of a liability than an asset. Now, if you get to the point where you're done with the house, whether you want to move or you want a different size house, if you sell and the economy is hot and it's a seller's market, then you could say technically, yes, this was an asset. But I'm old enough to have lived through one down cycle in housing, and even that is not always the case. I know plenty of people that sold their house for a financial loss. And that doesn't even include all the money they put into their house since the day they bought it. I bought my first house in 2002. For the first 4 or 5 years, it went up in value 2 to 4% maybe per year. And then 2006-07 came and I owed more on the house than it was worth for about 5 years. And I didn't have Florida fever then. Always knew I was going to move to Florida, or at least I always knew I had something in my mind that I would want to move to a warmer climate, but I didn't have the vision of Florida as clear as I felt in my mid 30s. So, that's the first thing. Before you classify buying a house as an asset or as a liability, you have to understand that a house is shelter in a place to live. That's what it does. Forget about the financial part. What is a house? A house provides shelter in an area that you're living. Then you go to the financials. If you're broke, owning a house is never an asset. Why? Because even if it's considered an asset, this shelter takes not just a fixed monthly cost to maintain, but what it includes in addition to a monthly fee is maintenance, upkeep, and you're liable legally for the property. And so when you rent, all you're really liable for is the fixed rent that will go up your rent will go up over the years, but the reason it goes up is because the property owner's property tax and insurance goes up every year. So, you think, well, I don't want to rent because I can buy something at the same monthly fee. That's true, but you're not calculating, maintenance, capital improvements, and insurance. Now, with that being said, if you can afford all those things, and if you're living in an area you want to live, I have to be fair, even as a nomad, there is some value. The problem is it's very hard, and mostly only retirees, people who retire, get to this point where you're finally at the end of your working career. You've saved up enough money, you have enough money in your assets, you're going to probably sell your big house, and then you're going to figure out where you want to live in your golden years, if you've done the right thing in your regular years. And now you'll probably buy a house the right way because you've lived through life. The problem is many people buy a house like I did in their 20s or even early 30s. They don't really know about location, financial literature, and really they don't have a deep understanding about home ownership. And I struggle now as a nomad, and I want to say that a house for a single person is a luxury. Okay. A house for a married person, as far as owning, it could, that's more of a necessity. Again, if the family is broke, then rent until you save up money. Because if you can't save up money to buy a house, I don't know how you're ever going. It's going to be a liability. So it's like, when you put very little down, it could be a good thing if you're leveraging that to use a low interest rate. Okay. But I've been there where you have little to nothing down. But I will say this, it was tough initially. But if you can get in the house for a few years and nothing major happened, it then becomes more of an asset. The thing with a house is usually the longer you live in it, the more it appreciates. But the more you're paying, okay, in the fees of property tax, insurance, and maintenance. The key thing is, where do you want to live? How much square footage do you want? And what type of personality and what type of personal situation do you have? Do you have a family? Do you have a place that you live, that you love where you live? Are you hands-on, or do you have the money to hire someone hands-on? There's different people, different personalities. I say to myself now, as a middle-aged man living through owning a house and now not owning any house for 5 years, I have such a conflicted spirit. One thing I am thankful for and confident of is that I'm more enlightened on what home ownership is. And I think if I do buy again, that I'm well more prepared financially. Also, the size of the house, making it manageable, knowing what to look for, knowing what the worst case scenario is. As much as sometimes I am against home ownership on this channel, I mean, I could see some value. Again, for a lot of people, I think a nomad life could work. For a lot of people, renting can work. I still would say that there is a higher level of liability when you own. There's no way around that. But there's also a higher level of quality of life when you own where you want to live, if it's below your means, to a certain degree. I mean, I again, good to see you, Aaron. Good to see you, Twisted. I have mixed emotions that I like living on wheels, and it feels great to not be liable for much. I got to be very honest. And I have to be very honest that if I do buy property again, I know that I give up some of that asset of flexibility. I always say, what is the nomad's number one asset? Flexibility. Now, what is the nomad's number one Achilles heel? They have nowhere to park every night without paying a rent to somewhere. And you say, well, you can stealth park, and I have done that 90% of the time, 5 years. And for me, that wears you out. It's like, and if you're saving money, at a certain point, you want to deploy that money to make your quality of life better. Like I say, I've lived in a gas station for most nights for 5 years, and I don't feel like I've had a bad quality of life. But I can say that, look, what I see right now is probably starting to absorb in my quality of life more than maybe what I would see if I owned a small house that was manageable. I think I could probably improve my quality of life with some type of home base. Now, I think I could also improve my quality of life with some type of RV, but I would have to figure out the logistics of parking it, which I've already started to do through staying at campgrounds more. The campground situation relieves some of the stress of stealth parking that occurs over a period of time. I don't want to stealth park anymore. Once in a while, I wouldn't be against it, but I just don't want to. You say, I love stuff parking. I say, yeah, I understand, but I've been doing this for 5 years straight. So, it's like, again, I don't begrudge you for loving it. But I also know from my experience, there may be some that have done it more than me, but most people haven't done it more than me consecutively. And most people haven't picked up 2, 3 jobs. Most people have their own situation. I don't judge them. I don't want to get in a place of judgment. I want to share with you. Good to see you, Hal, Pago, ESP, Jesse. Hey, let's get to these live comments. I want to share tonight in my opening statement. Now we're going all live comments. Good to see everyone. I'm on the verge of making a decision or being indecision again. And the one thing I don't like about looking at home ownership is the minute you start the process and you sign the dotted line, there's a lot of liability. And everyone's got their hand in your pocket there's a lot of transactional fees, title search, if you're going to get a mortgage, the banker's going to, real estate agents, inspectors, etc. In the beginning, it's sort of a lot. Now, when you settle in, it could be better. But if I buy it, you always have to worry about something. A snowstorm, a hurricane, a wildfire, a plumbing leak. But you're never going to have to worry about where you stay every day. You're never going to have to worry about, well, I don't want to say never going to have to worry about your environment, but your environment is more stable. Is there a perfect answer? I try to preach on this channel through my experiences, living your best life, whatever it's going to be for you. And sometimes I do it in a very intense way because I'm coming from my perspective. And I feel everything that I say. The bottom line answer is there is no perfect answer. That's the bottom line. There are general guidelines of wisdom. Wisdom will protect you from great liability. Wisdom is living below your means. Wisdom is living in an area that has the resources to secure a relatively well environment for you and anyone else that will live with you. A wisdom is to buy within the right square footage of your needs, not too excessive, not too much. Wisdom is if you're not ready to do that, then stay flexible. Wisdom speaks to all of us individually in our individual seasons. Some of these things are general, they're static, they stay with us forever. Nothing lasts forever, including your house, including you. In one sense, there was the scripture, I'm not sure what religion it was from, maybe it was from Islam, live like a traveler. Okay. And I think about that, I was thinking about that, say on my walk, there is something to be said for living like a traveler, meaning that you live very light on this earth and you go into another dimension after this earth. But at the same time, the traveler dies, the homeowner dies, the nomad dies in this world. So I can't make the statement in wisdom that you should live owning nothing. You should live like a monk. However, I can't make the statement that you should buy everything you see, have a storage unit, and be suffocated by stuff. I can't preach that you should starve yourself to death, okay, and be skinny at the sake of not enjoying your life. I can't tell you that you should eat so much that every night you suffer with indigestion that you make your life worse. I can't preach that. I can tell you that I've done many of these things that I just said. And I can tell you the balance is the key. The balance is a very hard thing because sometimes it's a moving target. It's definitely individual. We all have our own fingerprint. But I believe through these things, you can kind of determine what's an asset and what's a liability. And you're going to have to figure it out for yourself, just like I am. And hopefully this video helped you. All right, we're going to all live comments. If you haven't already, click the thumbs up. You want to join the live chat, click the blue join button, share the video, leave a comment. Let's go. I got my laptop audio on, but I'm going to adjust that right now. I do these live feeds on my smartphone, and then I try to pull up the comments on the laptop so that I can multitask to make sure that I don't miss comments, because there are sometimes comments that through the algorithm, they're blocked as inappropriate and I have to approve them, and I can only do that on my laptop. So if you're a creator, make a mental note. If you're going to do a live feed, you need to pull up your laptop, tether the Wi-Fi off your smartphone, okay, and use both, okay, because you're a movie production, you're a business, okay, you're an independent contractor. You're not sharing, uh, you're not sharing a crayon. You're sharing a platform, okay, and you have to be able to lead the ship because your ship, it's your channel. But you have to remember the most important part of a live feed is what we're going to do right now, the interaction. Why? Because the engagement at a mass scale is what most people intrigue. I was just on a live feed. I was with my man Cartoon Mark. I loved it. We were engaged. Remember, one of the things I want to teach you so you get value out of these feeds, one of the major components that humans want is to have someone to listen to them. You know, one of the hardest parts about being single or being a loner is there's many times in life, guys, you're by yourself and there's no one to listen to you, and you form relationships and they come and they go. And for me, that's just the life that probably works best for me. It'll probably always be that way till I die, even though I meet people, but I let go very easy because I've learned in life that everyone's going to go on their own path anyway. So the less I try to hold on to that path, the better the relationship is, and the better they are, the better I am. It's a weird, sad dynamic, okay? But I want to share with you in this life, you know, like I always tell you, like, stay single. And look, for many people, I think singleness is good. But I also know, to the point I just shared, most people are social, and being single hurts them, being by themselves. The problem is those people are usually subject to people who have a million other people that want their time. So you don't want to be alone and you're chasing someone that's got 20 other people chasing them. And then all you do is go around in a circle. You got to learn how to be by yourself. I'm not saying you have to be an isolationist. I don't preach that. I have good connection, but it's got to be a reciprocal connection. If it's not reciprocal, it's a shit show. It's a very hurtful, emotional relationship that will leave you with extreme emotional liability. There's a lot of people I know, they're nomads, but they're very emotionally, they don't have assets of reciprocal relationships. They have liabilities of one-sided relationships. And I don't, guys, one thing I'll say that I definitely know is that a one-sided relationship, guys, will destroy your life. Forget about a house. A house, guys, I'm talking about relationships. Number one cause of stress. I researched one time. What's the top causes of stress? And they said number one cause of stress is relationship. Number two is money. Okay. And so you got to be very careful. All right, let's go to all these live comments. Adam, again, great to see you. Adam's recovering from a breakup with his girl. I don't know if he's back with her already. And I love you and your parents. Christina, it's great to see you. I was thinking about you today. Twister, what's up, everyone? Great to see you. Aaron, great to see you. See these people on Cartoon Mark's channel, too. Aaron, yep. ESP. ESP says, hey, Sam and everyone. Good to see you, ESP. ESP's the big dog. She got a promotion living in her van in Alaska. ESP, is there any way we're going to get you to buy a house? Now you're making big money. Or are you van life for life? If there's any nomads in here and you're a van lifer for life, let me know. Pago. Me and ESP are going to open a park where people can pay to poke a mechanical bear. Well, that sounds good. The idea sounds good, but the reality is you'll be very liable for anyone that would get hurt in that park. And you would need a high level of liability insurance, and you would get tired of the liability. And then you would say, you know what? Instead of trying to make money off an amusement park with a mechanical bear you can poke, okay, using like a sarcastic, very smart sense of humor because you listen to what I say about some trolls and maybe you have relationships with them, maybe you are them, you know that the greatest liability is the Judas in the crowd. It is the one that pokes the bear. It is the one that acts like the friend, but is trading silver coins with the enemy. And you say to yourself, why would someone want to cause harm emotionally or physically to someone, okay, that is not causing harm to them? And I'll tell you why. Because revenge, because if people don't feel like you treat them a certain way, instead of people moving on, people look to butt heads, poke bears. If you're mature in life, if your energy is not being reciprocal, then just move on. Because if you're going to play this psychological game of seeing if I can get this person upset or if I could trick this person, you are not being an asset to yourself. You're being a liability. Because there's no way, and this took me a while to understand this. I haven't always been this mature. I want to tell you that it's good to laugh. It's a blessing to have good relationships. But when you have to question, is someone busting my balls? Or is someone just having a good time? See, it's like, to me, as soon as you got a question, I was like, all right, now I don't know. And so what I want to tell you, a house is always a liability when someone in the house is untrustworthy. How can you live with an untrustworthy person and have peace? You can't. It's impossible. And I'm not talking about like you're afraid they're going to kill you at night. I'm talking about you don't trust them emotionally. They're vindictive. They're spiteful. You have to walk on eggshells. There is no asset in that relationship. There's only liability. Discernment is what we need tonight. Let us pray for discernment. Hal, what's good, Sam? Keep shining and grinding. Well, brother, I appreciate that reciprocal love, brother. And I want the same for you on your journey to your best life. Whether you own a house or whether you rent for life, remember, you are the bag. I used to watch a DoorDasher on YouTube that used to always say that at the end of the video. He said, don't forget, you are the bag, secure the bag. And I want to tell all my DoorDashers and gig economy, as I was looking into it more, because if I buy a house, I already did the research of if I needed a side hustle, if I ever got late. Because if you're going to buy a house, you have to know how to make multiple options of making money in the area you live, because you're committing to that area. So you'd be foolish to move in the middle of nowhere just because it's cheap. Well, in my opinion, if you can't make money there, because you're always going to have bills. One of the, and I have to catch myself doing this. One of the number one things that I've seen that keeps people not getting ahead is they only focus on their expenses. They don't focus on their income. And many of that is because they got this static income. Remember, a lot of people want to be a nomad and they have a static income. If you believe in flexibility and if you believe in movement, then you should be able to move up your income. If you don't want to move your income, and you're not going to want to move your van, you're going to become entitled to that parking spot. I've seen it time and time again. A mind that doesn't move their income is a mind that won't move their car. They'll lock heads with someone, I guarantee you. Click that thumbs up if you agree. Jesse, Sam, house shopping is whack. Starting to get anxious and upset. It's true. It depends. I've been on both sides. House hunting could be fun. It can become exhausting. Once you go under contract or get close, then it gets very scary. Now, in fairness, I will say, once you get through closing and you settle in, it can get better. It is always going to be a liability, but it can also become an asset. It's never going to be one or the other, but it's a huge responsibility, and it leans on the side of liability. So you got to be very careful. And as a young person, when I was doing it, I didn't understand these things, but I still made it through. The word of encouragement is, look, no matter what, if you try to make it work, you'll make it through. But you got to do the work. If you don't do the work, you're never going to make it through anything. Car living, renting, or liability. Guys, there's people who get evicted every day. Now that we're back in eviction, renting is a liability. Being a landlord's a liability. Being a renter, being a homeowner, being a nomad's a liability. You say, I don't own anything. I'm like you, I'm a nomad. What's my liability? You drive more. You're on the road more. What's the most dangerous thing the average human does? Drive. It's your biggest liability. And if you're low income and all you have is your car, what are you going to do in a car accident? You're going to get insurance. What are you going to buy with your insurance? What does your insurance cover? Where are you going to stay until you get that reimbursement? You always have to know everything is a liability. There's nothing that's not without liability. Secure yourself. Improve yourself. Don't just love the word flexibility, but then have a rigid mind when it comes to income and exit strategies and, etc. Because really the next dimension of success is being able to determine your path, whether you want to rent, own, or buy. There's times in your life you got to do what you got to do. Times you got no choice. There's been times in my life I had no choice. You do what you got to do. You do what you got to do so you can get where you want to get. When you get where you want to get, you grow into another dimension. Whether you rent, buy, or nomad, you can do it no matter what. But if you don't grow, if you don't put a demand on your life, you're evicting yourself. Why? Because you have been delinquent on rent. I used to work with a guy who was a young vendor, good guy. He's one of the first guys, too, that encouraged me to do the channel. And he's getting married now, I think. And shout out to him if he ever watches. So he used to wear the shirt because he was a young guy. He was in the gym. Or he used to have this saying that, oh, I'm going to the gym. Rent is due. And he would say rent is due, meaning it's time to go to the gym to pay the dues to get the body he wants. Okay. You don't get what you want without paying rent. Okay. Meaning without paying dues. Whether you rent, buy, or own. Now, again, I fully believe in what Cartoon Mark was preaching today. Too big a house, too much stuff, too much liability. A house is a huge liability. You don't want too much square footage. You don't want old infrastructure. I don't want 2 stories. You want to know if a storm comes, what's your exit strategy? What do you have to clean? What do you have to maintain? Infrastructure, water heater, air conditioning, cleaning, etc. If you want to rent, okay, you have to know your rent's going to go up just like property taxes go up. If you want to nomad, you have to know where you're going to park. Everything is an asset or a liability. Never forget it. Let's go back to these live comments. Adam, laughing, back go. Michigan in the house. What's up, brother? Or sister, I'm sorry. Ice fishing is loved by all. Well, like I said, Paco, I love you. I do not love ice fishing. Why? I don't like ice. Growing up in New Jersey, I hated black ice. You slip, you fall. When I was a kid, I guess I liked snowstorms just to play outside and cancel school. But I did what I had to do to get where I had to get. And right now, I have one goal, never to live through snow. Unless there was an emergency, I needed to see my mom, I would never do it, never go up there. You say, why buy a house? Well, look, again, if you're single, there's so many different decisions. But in one sense, I will just say that a house can make you lonely. Okay? If you're single, you buy a house, you look in it, there's nothing. However, that's an emotional, immature person, which I've been. You can be by yourself and be in a parking lot or being in a campground and be lonely. Okay? So the only difference with the nomad life is you're always moving around, so you don't have a lot of idle time. For the fluid mind, for the static mind, guys, they're never moving. So renting and nomading tend to be a transitional state. Buying, the transitional state sucks. The selling part can suck. The owning part can suck. So what's the asset of buying? Well, I do believe now as a mature man, it's got to be probably at your second go around or retiree go around, because I think it would be very hard for a young person to figure out what type of property to buy your first time. It's like anything in life. The first time you do something, are you good at it? The first day at your job, are you good at it? The first day in bed, are you good at it? The first time playing a sport, are you good at it? Does that mean you should do something again and again? No, everyone has different gifts. So, but there's definitely something to be said for a level of doing things a few times to understand the system better. Okay, back to these live comments. Adam, I believe if you take care of your house and fix things that need to be fixed so you can flip your own house, you can make a profit off it. But it's a lot of responsibility. Well, I agree. I mean, I definitely agree with the heart of that statement. One is you got to have the upkeep of the house. Some of the house profit is outside of your control based on economic conditions. If the market goes down, even if you have a pristine house, it may hold value better, but it may still go down in value. Now, again, in the past 10 years, houses just gone up, so it's very hard to say when that would happen. But at the end of the day, bottom line is, yeah, it could be an asset, but it is a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of liabilities, true. Adam, hoping to do a bushcraft video tomorrow, Sam. Well, there you go. Self-care for the win. Pat Go Reindeer, I love you, Pat Go. Adam, I saw a 12-point buck out there, Pat Go, about a half month ago. How? I'm thinking about making a channel sharing my journey to running the marathon. Some motivation and inspirational videos. Well, one is if you want to do YouTube, I support it, just like I supported many people who started because I've done it. So I want to support you, Hal. I would say this, do what you want. Make the first thing you need to put time and effort into if you're going to make a channel is your channel name, your avatar, and the backdrop of your channel. And if you don't know a specific direction, just remember your name should be catchy and self-explanatory. Simple, catchy, and self-explanatory. Your tag name for your channel is probably the most important aspect because people need to know what you're talking about, who you are, and be intrigued just by your name, the name of your channel. Then when they go on your channel, the backdrop should have some level of effort. You got to put effort. That's the core. That'll take you a few weeks to figure that out. Then remember, most people don't want to hear about your journey. Most people don't want to hear about my journey. The majority of views I've got on my channel, which are the bedrock of any channel, are RV reviews when I took my big ass and went to RVs and did RV reviews, car reviews, and visiting different areas and showing. Now, over 4.5 years, 7 million views, when you do videos that the masses want to see, you will get a less than 1% that then want to follow your journey. As an example, I have 27.4 thousand subscribers. I have 53 people in the live chat. Out of my 27,000 subs, only 50 people want to hear about my journey and my thoughts. Most people want to look at an RV review. They want to look at a place. They want something that will help them. They don't want your journey. That doesn't mean you shouldn't share your journey. It just means that you have to be prepared to put effort to do something other than your journey, something the masses wants. If you're totally lost, go to a car lot and do a video of every new car, a review. Now, are there exceptions to that rule? There's exceptions to every rule. Again, I think Cartoon Mark's got a nice little channel. Charles, other people starting channels, ESP. But they know that to really get in the algorithm of success, one is you got to be consistent. I don't care if you're going to talk about your journey every day. You got to have a consistent upload. And to fairness, in the beginning, it takes a while to figure out your rhythm. It took me. But in fairness, I overall showed up just about every day. I mean, definitely every day. So YouTube is like buying a house. there's a lot of upfront commitment, and you're not going to get paid any money. You're going to give money. You're going to give time. Your time is your money. You're going to get nothing but liability. How are you going to be liable if you have a YouTube channel? You're sharing your life publicly. You're disclosing all your privacy, especially if you're going to show your face and talk about yourself. That's liability. You get nothing back. Over time, if you put in the work, the equity of your channel builds up. Now it's worth something. Now it becomes an asset. But it still has factors of liability. No matter how big your channel, it can still be a liability. However, it's also an asset now. It's like a house. So there is times in life where you take on liability to convert it into an asset, but there's always that part of it that's a liability. This is the word of the Lord, guys. Click this thumbs up. We're on fire right now. Back to these live comments. Let's take a hydration break. You know what it is? We've been on here 35 minutes. Shout out to you. Adam, Howell, you should. ESP. Since I got the promotion, here we go. I've actually been daydreaming about how I can upgrade my current rig. I'm laughing. I love you, ESP. Enjoy the fruits of your labor. Just use wisdom. I want to repeat. Wisdom will guide you. Wisdom will keep you from making a reckless decision. There is no perfect decision. No perfect house, no perfect car, no perfect RV. No perfect job. You know, some people are looking for the perfect RV. They're not looking for the perfect job. That's their problem. So, in life, wisdom keeps us away from too reckless. Because there is a too wrong of something. There's the grace of God if you fail, but you should at least try to use wisdom. Try to find something below your means. Try to find something that's not too big, not too small. What was that parable, that like kitty lesson they taught us? Like the partridge girl or whatever. Like, oh, this was too much. This is too little. This was just right. So there is that balance, but you got to figure it out. So ESP was saying, got a promotion. Now she's looking at upgrading her vehicle. I've also been daydreaming about possibly buying a different van. Well, yeah, I mean, look, right now, my two options are buying a van, Class B van, or buying a small little modular house under 500 square feet. And the van on average will go down in value. The house on average, if you own the land, will go up in value. However, the van has lower liability, lower maintenance if it's new. I see a lot of people buying old used cars. They have problems with it, and then they want to buy another old used cars. Guys, go on a car lot, put 20% down on a $25,000 Kia Soul and have payments for 7 years. I see broke people talking about, oh, don't go into debt slavery. Yeah, well, don't buy cars that are safety risk and you keep having problems. You ain't going to be able to do anything. Don't listen to broke people who, look, guys, being out of debt is good, okay? But what's even better, okay, is having reliable vehicles and understanding that you have enough potential to make more money, okay? You don't have to race to the bottom. You can race to the top. You don't have to live in poverty, even though I'm not scared to live in poverty, pretty much am. But you don't have to cut your expenses to prosperity. You can increase your income, which I did. Increase your income, decrease your expenses. And then when you save up, don't buy used, buy new. Okay. That's my opinion. However, are you wrong for buying used? No, that's because look, some people I know, I'm visualizing some people I know. Look, they buy used that works for them. So everyone has a different way. Okay. And look, a used car, 1-2 years old, couple thousand miles, those are doable. I'm talking about, guys, when you're buying $5,000 vehicles, these are shit cans. Okay. These are fucking scrap metal. Okay. They're going to leave you, okay, on the side. They're going to leave you having to pay another $5,000 in 5 years. And in 5 months. So just be careful. Now I got to cop an all-night gas station. Guys, home base. You can get a van, but then where are you going to park the shit? Cartoon Mark. Thank you so much, Sam. I love you, brother. Don't buy unless it's very small and manageable. That's a very good point. And I'm thinking about that. Like a virgin. Yeah. Like a police officer that just pulled in all-night gas station. Let me get to my campground. ESP. I've had no daydreaming about housing or property, none. I can understand that. I still cringe a little bit at home ownership, but I also cringe though seeing a cop come in here. Now you say, well, why don't you just go back to your campground? Well, that's where I'm going now. But see, I can't really do a live feed from a campground. Why? Guys, at nighttime, it's quiet at campgrounds, at least in most areas. In a van, I don't know. We said, what about a home base? Can you be loud there? I don't know. I guess my demeanor changes depending on my environment. That's true. Adam, today is her birthday. She is trying to come by after a while. Yeah, you're going back, man. Well, one is, Adam, I love you. I don't judge you. But I think of the scripture in the book of Proverbs, as a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool returns to its folly. So you're not a fool for getting back into a relationship. You'd be a fool for getting back into the same unhealthy relationship that hasn't corrected its behavior. You're not a fool for buying a car or van, even if it's used, but you'd be a fool to buy one that has such high mileage, such a high risk. You're not a fool for buying a house, but you'd be a fool for buying one above your means that's got so much maintenance. At the end of the day, are we all fools? Look, any of us can be fooled, man. Am I really the smartest guy in the room now? I don't think anyone's the smartest person in the room. I really don't. Obviously, we're all trying to figure out what works for us. Okay? Life is hard. Okay? All I'm sharing are some general things. But the number one thing you're going to struggle with in life is relationships. They're the biggest liability. And be very careful, Adam, but I love you no matter what you decide. Jesse, so true about feeling lonely sometimes in your car. I start getting crazy ideas like parking my car in paid garage and fly out of the USA. I tell you, that's a tough thing to think about. I don't know, man. That's definitely not where I go, but all I can tell you is you cannot leave behind self-care. And I can't begrudge, though, people who want to travel around out of the country or whatever. Everyone's different. But like I say the same thing about Florida. Nothing is going to change your self-care habits. So if you can honestly say to yourself, I have good habits and I'm going to Florida, I have good habits and I'm going to travel across the world. If I have good, then, you're going to figure out what areas you like better, but you're always going to have your daily habits. To me, you only buy a house when your daily habits are embedded in an area and you don't want to move around all the time. Jesse, it's a feeling of, let me get the fuck out of this car with this money bag and go spinning in Bahama. Yeah, see, I have the opposite algorithm. Like, to me, I don't want to go spending my money until I make a decision of, do I want to stay as a nomad or stay as, or get back into a home ownership? Because I don't want to deploy money for something that's going to fade. A van's going to fade. A house is going to fade. It's going to need upkeep. And a trip is going to fade. Out of all those things, a trip will fade the quickest. A van will get you 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 years without major problems. Usually 5 or 10. So, but again, who am I to tell you how to spend your money? Only you decide how you spend your money. But I'm sharing my thoughts that be very careful when it comes to those things. Jesse O. Bahamas. ESP. Goldilocks. That was it, ESP. Ryan. Hey, Sam. Love the video today. Thank you, Ryan. I know you're struggling to get out of where you're at. You'll figure it out, brother. I believe in you guys and girls that, again, I'm trying to be sensitive. I know I scream on some of these live feeds, and some of the things may be contrary to what you want to do. Don't let me determine what you do, guys. Remember, I'm just doing me. And is my way always right? Nope. Because there's a lot of people, guys, they make different decisions than me. They do great for themselves. So I'm very conscious of that. Okay. But for those who connect in a similar way, I want to tell you that your environment matters. Okay? Where you live. It doesn't matter more than your self-care, and self-care is going to include your career development. Because I do think, though, there is a level of wisdom. I remember Caitlyn Jenner said this, that his father told him, I heard this on an episode of Kardashians, that you should figure out where you want to live and then figure out how to get an income there. Now, for me, I kind of did the opposite, because I think as early as you can, do what you got to do, even if you don't want to do it, but then incrementally do more of what you want to do. See, one is, I don't think people are willing to pay their dues, so they put that off, and then they get older and they're always starting from the bottom of the workforce. Because if you don't pay your dues, you're always going to be at the bottom. That's the whole point of moving up. However, the problem is sometimes when people pay their dues, they get comfortable, they move up a little bit, but they don't go to the next dimension because they say, if I just keep doing this, I'll ride this until retirement. Because when I left the union, A lot of people told me, now you're vested, you got 10 years in or whatever. Why don't you just stay and get your pension? I said, what? Why don't I stay 30 years and waste the rest? I said, nah. I said, I think I'll figure it out. I did the research. So, and then, look, you get into the corporate life, you're working in an office. There's a lot of philosophy of there's a lot more jobs up north, and there's true. But to me, that's why you keep your income, you live below your means, you sacrifice for 5 years or whatever you got to sacrifice for, and then you pivot. Life is always change, and you got to anticipate that change. Nothing lasts forever. It's a matter of how you want to spend your days. Your life is your daily routine. And you say, well, I know, that's why I don't want to work this job. I don't want to do this. I understand that. I have this, but I'm just saying to get to the point where you have the option not to do it in a healthy way, you got to pay your dues, okay? You got to live in your car for 2 years in New Jersey and maintain an income. You got to pick up a side income. Whatever you got to do. If you're unwilling to do that, just remember your results will not reflect the same as others who are doing that. Okay? So, you always have to think of all these things. Early riser. I felt fear and sadness today. Let's talk about this. In spurts. Here and there, nothing specific. Just a general sense. A bike ride helped me. A self-care will help you. Movement will help you. Could have 8 healthier. That'll help you too. But I understand. I appreciate you sharing. We all fall. I'll get back at it tomorrow. Love your attitude, early riser. Very smart. Very, very good mindset. Ryan, I love you. A lot of people just buy a house close to where they grew up. I did that. And are oblivious to a better life. I did that. And even though I was blessed to have a nice condo and I'm very fortunate for it, I did that. ESP. I agree. Vans depreciate in value, but you can sell it. That's a fair point. And recoup some of the money. That's a fair point. With rent, you get nothing back. That's a fair point. The only thing you get with rent is you also get a place to park your ass. With a van, you don't get a place to park. You're still paying money for gas. With rent, you get a place to park. You get a little bit higher security. So, however, do I still prefer the nomad life over renting? For the most part, yes. I do. I say, yeah. I prefer living in a vehicle. I prefer not dealing with a landlord or rentals or Airbnbs even. And you only use them as another resource for now. So, look, guys, I am very much excited still about the nomadic life. I think it has a lot to offer. A lot, okay? I think it is a bridge in a transition season or maybe even a permanent. To stay as a nomad for several years, you got to really be willing to discipline the mind and deal with some stuff. I go back and forth, I go back and forth. Some people always quote me, don't forget the movie The Heat, where Robert De Niro said you got to be able to leave anything in 15 seconds. Yeah, don't forget what he died at the end of the movie. Don't forget, you think you're Scarface, you didn't see the end of the movie. Don't forget, he wasn't a criminal. He was a criminal trying to get away from law. I'm not a criminal trying to get away from law. I mean, look, I like the idea of being able to get away from anything in 15 minutes. I get that. That's value. There is value there. High flexibility. But remember, that was a movie, and that was a criminal, and it still ended bad for him. So if you're going to quote that movie, you have to understand you're idolizing a criminal who didn't end up in a good place. So a lot of people don't think that. See, a lot of nomads also don't think about the next dimension. They only think about the dimension they're in. And they are, look, and the nomad life's good. I'm not bashing it. I'm torn. I see value in both assets and liabilities. Okay. Liability, guys, with no place is you got no place. Okay. Now, that could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. And when you're healthy and when things are going good, all good. Now, if you got a house and it's too big, it's too much, it's not where you want to live, it's all bad. Is a house ever good? Look, everything has good and bad, man. I mean, I'm trying to tell myself you go, everything has the good and the bad. That's how you want to live at this point in your life. Back to these live comments. But no, that was a good point though, ESP. I think about the Class B van. I said, man, well, I buy a Class B van for $75K. And some of that too, if you used it for a business purpose, you may be able to depreciate. And in 5 years, the 75K van will probably be worth 25K wholesale value, depending on how many miles you put on it. Again, if you're going to use a van as your number one driver, here's the problem. You're going to put a lot of miles on it. At least I am, because I like to, I'm moving around. Now, obviously, I don't move around as much as I used to, other than the one trip I do per year to see my mom. So, but I still move around a lot during the day. I mean, probably average 100 miles a day. That's over 36,000 miles a year. That'll get you to 200,000 miles basically in 5 years. So basically in 5 years, with a car that has 200,000 miles on it, whether it's a van, Class B, or whatever, that could be considered very low value. So every 5-10 years, you're basically bring your value to nothing. Now, if you have this is where it goes back to personality. If you have a van and you don't drive that much, that's not your thing, you're stationary, and you have a place to park, that could work. That could work a lot. So, and I even look at that. Look, if I get a van, I'm gonna be parked more. I don't like that it takes away from an option to DoorDash, Uber, Instacart. I like to always have that in my back pocket, but if you have a little van like ESP at MV200, you can still do it because that's fuel efficient enough. You're not, And if you get a Class B, you can always put it in storage and get a beater car to DoorDash, Uber, Instacart. But at the end of the day, a lot of it does come down to lifestyle choice. Okay? And certainly there's a financial aspect of a house, asset or liability. There is, we talked about. But certainly there's an emotional and a lifestyle difference that only you can determine what season of life you're at and what you want to deal with. I just want to tell you, you're going to deal with something no matter what, whether you rent, nomad, or buy a house. And depending on your individual circumstance, you bite the bullet on some things because you say, well, I'm willing to deal with this because this is greater than that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's the back and forth tennis match that you play in your mind. Ryan, do you think you will be forced to be a home base soon because of price rising? No, I'm not rushing. I haven't rushed to buy anything. If anything, I would be more encouraged to wait because I do think we've seen peak prices, even though I know they're still buying. But I want to be fair. There was a lot of people that told me we peaked out in 2018 with prices. So no one, including me, knows the future. But I am definitely not chasing anything because that's one area in life I learned. If I have to rush, I'm going to screw myself. I have missed out on home bases because I didn't rush. I missed out on, and I'll tell you, I worked hard to live below my means to get ahead so that I don't have to rush, and I won't rush. And if I buy, it'll be in a flow of me using wisdom, taking my time, and then emotionally building myself up that I want to deal with some liability. If I don't buy a home base, then same thing applies with a van or a new vehicle or whatever my next thing. I do think no matter what, as each day goes by, I'm closer to something else. And a lot of, some of it's to do with where I'm at in my 5-year journey and how I started my journey. Like Hal said, he wanted to share his journey of his life. My journey was to sell my house in New Jersey, figure out how to live in Florida by the beach, cut my bills in half, cut my living expenses in half. And I found the lifestyle of the nomad, living in your car, van, or RV, as a way to try it. Because really that was like the best way. I said, man, well, that gives me a lot of options. Now, it's addictive having a lot of options because there's no greater freedom than the nomad life, but there's a risk. Okay, the liability is on the road more, and if a major issue happens, and then over time, you do ask yourself a little bit quality of life. As an example, Right now, I am in a gas station. Would my quality of life be better in a gas station? Even though I don't begrudge this gas station at all. Not at all. Is my life better in this gas station, or would it be better in a home base by the beach with my windows open and the breeze blowing through? Well, yeah, on the night where everything's right, it'd be the home base. On a night where there's a hurricane, I'd rather be in a gas station traveling up north. So, the pie cuts many ways. Okay. I think I read all the comments. I tried to do the best I could tonight. I hope that I helped more people than I hurt. Why? I like YouTube, but what's the one thing that hurts me every time I kind of end a live fest up? You do an hour of talking, and you say, I hope my words didn't hurt someone, because I know someone may be going through something that I may have a different viewpoint, and that in itself hurts that person. I'm sorry for that. I don't want to hurt people. I love people. But also, I have to be confident enough to share my thoughts. Like, you got to do you, I got to do me. Those who truly, see, one thing, the only relationships I have in my personal life is people that we understand each other. If we're wrong, I got no problem saying, look, I'm sorry about this. But I don't want to be in no damn relationship where there's someone poking the bear or people going to act like, oh, you hurt me, I hurt you. No. That's psychological, emotional abuse. I don't want to abuse people, and I don't want to be abused. I want to tell you, relationships are your biggest liability, not your house. And until you get that, you don't have an asset of flexibility if you can't leave your relationship. You don't have an asset of flexibility if you don't have the gas money to move your car. You have this idea of you can live cheap on your relationships. You can live cheap to get ahead. And what I can tell you, guys, you're gonna go crazy if gas goes up anymore. You're gonna go crazy if you begrudge being alone so much that you chase someone like you chase house prices. Don't chase anything, guys. Don't go chasing waterfalls. Is that easy to do? No, it's hard. I have empathy, not judgment. Okay. Thank you, Aaron. I love you. Ryan, many people allow the spouse to control them. Look, relationships are hard, man. I've been on both sides of the coin. I've had people like me more than I like them, and I have liked people more than they like me. And what I can tell you is it's a lot of heartache, very risky. Am I glad I had relationships? Yes. See, as a single person who enjoys being single, I tell you guys straight up that even though I say being single is good, I also tell you, thank God that I had relationships because it made me a better person. I don't know what type of crazy psychopath I would be if I never experienced love or relationship. And same thing with owning a house. I don't know if I really would have pushed myself in my career if I didn't have a house to take care of and pay for. I probably would have just been a pizza. I don't know. I've always been like, I want to get ahead. So I think everyone's wired a certain way. But I want to say that even if you're wired a certain way, you still got to do the work of your life. You still got to show up to what your dreams are. Because you can have talent, or you can have a desire but not go after it. Okay. My man, Cartoon Mark, great encouragement. I love you, brother. And wisdom tonight. You killed it on your live feed, man. You should have saw Cartoon Mark's live feed. This guy toured a gas station, he toured a basement down. He's in his basement more than me. You say Inspirational Nomad, was Cartoon Mark's live feed better than mine tonight? Yes, I think it was. Why? Because I think he just shared from a sincere place. And I think when one of the reasons Cartoon Mark will get to 1,000 subs, and when he gets there, he's going to realize don't pay much. He's going to realize, Cartoon Mark going to realize this. Being a YouTube star is a liability, especially in the beginning. Why? Because everyone's watching you, your coworkers, your girl, your parents, your friends. Oh, you got a YouTube channel? And you ain't getting paid nothing. And most of the time, you're not saying anything bad, but someone's going to take offense to something you say. However, If you're creative and you don't share your creative gift, you might as well put all your crayons in your closet and burn them. With great creativity comes great disagreement. But God will protect you if you're doing things with the right motives. And I believe, Cartoon Mark, your channel is going to not only make you side money, not enough to live on important PSL, but it'll be a side hustle. And also, you're going to encourage many. Why? Because you have a great personality, you have sincerity when you speak, and you have a lot of wisdom. You're the gatekeeper. And I have to get going because the cop has circled around twice in the gas station. And if they circle 3 times and they see you, it's basically like you're spitting in their face. And somewhere there's a nomad saying, I have a right to park here. Hey guys, you have a right to do a lot of things in life. But wisdom is knowing what the right thing is to do, not just utilizing your rights. Okay. You know, some people, the most contentious people say, this is my right, this is my right. It's good to know your rights. It's better to do the right thing. Okay. Listen to Spike Lee, do the right thing. And instead of making the cop's life harder and your life harder, do the right thing. Move on with your life. God bless.